I one to save you money. So when it comes to standing up to the big grocers, we'll do it. When it comes to standing up to the big tech companies, we'll do it. But most importantly, when it comes to putting cash back in your project, back in your pockets, we're doing it.
But it's like the gas tax, which cut $1 billion.
Which was the most important thing that a provincial government ever did in the history of Manitoba.
Oh my goodness.
Because it gave power back to the middle class and to the low income.
No, it didn't. You didn't replace the subsidy for public transit, 50-50 funding. That's a working
We're
class
making
issue.
transit free in this year's budget for
No,
people who are children and youth.
For kids going to high school. So I think there is going to be some room for you to have some good conversation with Savvy Lewis on a just transition plan.
Thank you.
Talk to Mr. Lewis about Churchill and his thoughts.
Guys, today is Monday, March 30th. My name is Miloš Krajčnik. This is the Canadian Sovereigntist. Have a article that's kind of tying into everything that we've been talking about last week, specifically how to build Canada's economy, where we kind of are in the global stage. I've talked about it several times, in the past. I think that we need to be a manufacturing hub. The way to do that is by having that energy self-sufficiency, having our energy coast to coast. Everybody's exploiting all of the energy that we can, all of the minerals that we can, because that's how you become a legitimate manufacturing hub. We could actually be supplying the entire, let's say, G7, or at least be a manufacturing hub for the G7, right? And obviously the easiest way to do that is by having cheap energy, right? We have the steel, we have the energy, we have everything that we need. We're not doing it. Why is that? Why are we not doing it? Nobody really knows, but the results are there. We know what the results are, right? And it's very simple, guys. We're going to get into it in the article right now, but what's happening in this article is that Statistics Canada literally just released a report this week confirming what our cost of living has been telling us for years, guys. And it's that Canada's productivity gap with the US has widened by 26% since 2000, guys. And the commodity boom masked it. When everything was going nicely, we didn't see it happening because because the oil revenue that existed was just covering all of the costs. We didn't feel it. And now when the oil crashed, it exposed it all, and that gap has just continued to widen. It was systematic throughout the decades, guys. And let's get into it. It's a short article, but it's very powerful. The years-long boom in oil and other commodity prices that ended in spectacular fashion last decade masked how badly Canada's weak labor productivity has weighed down the country's economy since the late 1990s, a new report by Statistics Canada found. And that's left Canada to fall even further behind the US on critical gauges of economic health, according to a study's authors, StatsCan analysts Carter McCormick and Ryan McDonald, with those gaps only widening in recent quarters. The more productive a country is, the more goods and services it can produce with the same amount of work, which translates into stronger real wages and improved living standards. Yet, since the turn of the millennium, Canada's productivity gap with the US has steadily widened, with relative productivity tumbling by 26% over that time, according to the report. We have this neat graph here that we can see. We can see labor productivity has just gone to shit. And just like real wages have collapsed, and then we also have the real gross national index is also collapsing slowly but surely. And this is the metric, so this is relative to U.S. economy. Looks pretty bleak, guys, when you see it like this, huh? It doesn't look too good. Canada's grinding productivity weakness was papered over by the faster growth in hours worked and trade benefits that came with higher commodity prices, giving Canada an edge over the U.S. in real per capita gross domestic product and real per capita gross national income. Another measure of economic health. When oil prices crashed in 2014, the illusion shattered. While StatsCan reported earlier this month that Canada's labor productivity improved in 2025 for the second year in a row, U.S. gains in productivity and economic growth have been stronger. So we got better, but they're just getting better faster. That's essentially what's happening. The relative decline in productivity is the principal reason why Canada is falling behind regardless of how economic performance is measured. The authors of the new report wrote, barring a reversal in these trends, improvements in Canada's living standards will be slower than in the US. And guys, that's a very key sentence right there. And I'm going to stop right now. So the commodity boom was not prosperity, guys. It was a mask, and Canada confused these higher oil prices and more hours worked with actual productivity growth. And those are two completely different things, guys. Productivity means getting more output from the same input. Working more hours and selling oil at higher prices is not productivity, guys. It is volume and luck. When the price environment changed, the underlying weakness was exposed because nothing structural had actually been built underneath it. Norway ran the same commodity boom. At the same time, it captured the revenue into sovereign wealth fund, invested it into global markets, and built productive capacity alongside it, guys. Canada spent the boom papering over productivity problems that have compounded the entire time. The illusion lasted until 2014. The problem it was hiding had been building since the late 1990s, guys. We saw it in the article. And this is what I mean. So productivity means getting more output from the same input. And this is why I'm saying Canada's goal should really be to be a manufacturing hub for, let's say, the G7, the advanced world, because we have all of the raw materials here. We have all of them. We have all of the energy we need. We have all of the natural gas. We have all of the uranium. We have all of the nuclear. We have all of the oil that we need. We have all of the steel that we need. We have diamonds. We have quite literally everything. With a good robotics program, with all of this, with all of the most advanced tech that exists now and all of the raw materials, we can quite literally just be pumping out advanced tech built domestically for the entire advanced world. And we could do it for cheap because we have all of the raw materials, but we're not doing anything because the thing that always happens in Canada is, we have to look at the private investors who are going to be investing in this. How is this going to look on the paper and this and that? There was no business case. We're always looking at the business case on short-term gains because there's never any long-term thought process that goes behind it all. And because of this, we ride a wave, we ride a price wave. Our politicians line their pockets with a price wave. The prices crash, everybody starts complaining, everybody's crying about it. Real wages don't grow. Condos crash. People invest their lives building up enough capital to put a down payment on a home. And then that home crashes 50% in value overnight because the economy is a paper tiger. That's what we've been living through, guys. And then to kind of add on top of all of that, guys, the oil crashed in 2014. That was 11 years ago. Canada's known about this, guys, productivity gap for over a decade. That the StatsCan authors are not describing a new problem. They are confirming that a known problem has continued to get worse, guys. Canada's productivity improved in 2025 for the second consecutive year. That sounds like progress until you read the next sentence. U.S. gains in productivity and economic growth are still stronger. So Canada is improving and still falling further behind simultaneously, guys. Guys, this isn't recovery. That is a slower rate of decline instead of a widening gap, guys. The authors say, barring a reversal, Canadian living standards will improve more slowly than American ones. That sentence is not a warning, guys, about the future. It is a description of what is already happening. The data is literally there. You just need to read it. The key thing with what that sentence actually means, and the thing that we need to, as Canadians, understand is that as big of an ally and trading partner that the U.S. is, they're also our main competitor with productivity and wages and all of that. Companies used to come to Canada because wages were a little bit smaller. Productivity was a bit higher or the same at the same level as the US. We had cheaper inputs and all of that. And so they would come, they would open up their factories in Canada, and then they would export it to the US. Why would they do that if productivity is 26% better in the US than it is in Canada? Why would they? They have no incentive to do that anymore because we've structurally collapsed our economy. It's our fault. It's nobody else's fault. We can blame geopolitics and it's our fault. Our politicians did not think about this on time, or they purposefully decided not to do anything about it. It's one or the other. I think there's malicious intent personally, but we can get into that a different time. Tie into all of this as well, guys. That productivity gap and the banking oligopoly are the same story at two different scales, guys. And we talked about this previously. Richard Werner argued that Canada's 6-bank oligopoly funneled capital into real estate instead of productive enterprise because the regulatory environment made that rational trade for us. What you get when capital systematically avoids productive investment, guys, for 25 years is exactly what StatsCan just measured, a 26% productivity gap that widened through a commodity boom, survived an oil crash, guys, and is still growing today. You cannot build productivity without productive investment. You cannot get productive investment when the capital allocation system is optimized for asset appreciation. That's the Werner argument, guys, at the household level. The StatsCan argument at the national level, it's the same cause. It's the same outcome as well. Two governments worth of politicians who either did not understand the connection or did not want to fix it with the commodity revenues were making it comfortable not to. They never wanted to fix the issue because they were lining their pockets nicely. And guys, why all of this really matters to Canadians, guys, is because this article, through raw statistics from Statistics Canada data, paints a picture of systematic mismanagement spanning decades, guys. Canadian politicians presided over a commodity boom, guys, that generated genuine prosperity and used that prosperity to avoid fixing the underlying economy. Nobody felt a problem because the oil revenues were covering it, guys. That's essentially all that happened. The oil revenues were covering it, so we didn't really feel it. But when the oil crashed in 2014, the cover was gone, and what was underneath was a productivity foundation that had been eroding for 15 years without anyone being held accountable for it. This goes for liberals, this goes for conservatives, this goes for NDP, it goes for all of them. They're all to blame. What Canada is left with is an economy that cannot compete with the US on productivity, cannot compete on wages, and has no credible plan to close a gap that has been widening for 25 years. The US isn't standing still. Its productivity gains are still outpacing Canada's. Despite what you think of what's going politically in the US today, they're still outpacing us. That's a fact and that's a statistic. And that gap isn't stabilizing, guys. It's just growing. It might be growing a little slower. It's still growing though. Which means that Canadians will be poorer, guys, relative to Americans, not because of a single crisis or a single bad decision, but because the structural work was never done when there was still revenue to fund it. Slower wage growth, slower improvement in living standards in a country that used to compete with its neighbor no longer can. That's not a forecast, guys. That is already happening. It's there. The StatsCan data just put a number to it. That's all I have for you guys today. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Please like, share, and subscribe. I love to hear what everybody thinks. I always get some nice comments. I love, going back and forth with people. Stay informed, stay curious, and God bless Canada.
This is Canada. Maple syrup and La Cabin, kick your ass all hockey season.